Hello, Mr. Brown!
Everybody, it's part 3 of our series on 3. I don't know what we called it. I will have figured it out by the time we post it. There will be some nice fancy title to this thing. But I'm talking about 3 important things to do as a parent. Number 1, eat. Number 2, read. And number 3, show up. Talk about the first 2 and other 2 videos. Check them out. They're on our YouTube channel, also on our website, hellomrbrown.com. And here's a way you'll never forget our website. hellomrbrown.com. If you're watching, you just saw me wave my hand, hello, mrbrown.com. If you are listening, just imagine me waving my hand, saying hello, and then mrbrown.com. Check out hellomrbrown.com. You can check out this video on these 3 keys, whatever we're talking about parenting, because they're not necessarily keys, it's just extra things. There's all kinds of stuff you can do as a parent. And parenting is hard work, and I just want to share some of my experiences, and my wife will come on sometime and share our experience together about parenting. But this is something I just talked about at a family night, so I want to just make a video for the Mr. Brown Show. That's what this is, by the way. Welcome to Mr. Brown Show. And just share these 3 things in a series of videos and blog posts and podcasts. So we're down to number 3, the last one of the 3. Eat, read, and show up. So let's talk about showing up. Show up. You ever seen those maps or gone to some place and maybe it's a big mall or some museum or something, and you look for the map that they have sometime on these boards or like a kiosk thing, and you look at the map and it says you are here. It lets you know where you are, because then once you know you're there, you know where proximity everything else is. So it shows you, okay, you're here, and if you look up, then the Dunkin' Donuts is there and JCPenney's is there, and so you get your bearings straight, right? And I think as a parent, it's so important to show up for your kids to know you are here, that you're there with them, that you're there for them. And I think sometimes it can be easier not always to show up, because let me talk about me. I'm not perfect. And sometimes it can be easier not to show up because I think I don't have the right thing to say. I'm afraid I'm gonna mess up. And when I say show up, I don't mean not coming home at night. I come home at night, but like, do I engage? Am I available to my kids? And let me just share something about my first child. I had a daughter that's much older, and we weren't in the same home. Her mom was married to someone else. I was like the dad on the outside. And we had a great relationship. I think me, her mom, and her stepdad had a pretty good relationship. I spent nights at their house at times. At one point, we lived 2.5 hours away. Then another point, we lived 4 hours from each other. But I'll be honest, there's been times that I just didn't show up the way I should because I felt like I wasn't needed. I felt, just to be vulnerable and honest, I felt her parents made a lot more money than I did, and they lived in a nice area, had a house, good jobs, cars, and my daughter had a cell phone before I did. I mean, like an iPhone, before I did. And I just felt like I wasn't needed because I couldn't compete financially, but that's not true. And so sometimes I chose comfort over commitment. I didn't show up the way I should have. And me and my daughter have talked about that now that she's much older, and actually she's a school teacher in Texas. And I regret that. I wish I would have showed up. Like, I wish I wouldn't have bought the lie of she doesn't need me. So let me just speak to any dads out there or moms who have shared custody or are not together anymore. I think it's so important to show up. Show up with your imperfect self, because none of us are perfect, and they need you. And they're not looking for a perfect parent. They're looking for you. They love you. They know who you are, and just show up. And I often, in the car, hear the commercial about trying to find foster parent, and that they talk about, they don't need a perfect parent. They need a parent. They need you, and they're not looking for you to be perfect. And so I want to just say, show up in every way you can, even though you're not perfect. They know you're not perfect. So why are we trying to put on the facade anyway, like we know everything? Be there, show up. When things get hard as they become teenagers and they act like they don't want you around, show up, be there. They need you. They need to know that you love them unconditionally, and they're starving for acceptance, affirmation, attention. And even if they act like they don't want it, they need it from you. And here's the truth. You need to give it. You need to, because for me, I realized that there's times I'd rather just go take a nap. I'd rather just like, hey, babe, take care of that. But they need me to show up. And so I need to show up, and I want to encourage you to show up, to be there, be all there. Again, not allowing the cell phone, not allowing our jobs, not allowing the things we feel we have to get for them, because sometimes there's a temptation to buy them things to make them happy versus giving them you. And have you ever noticed you can spend all this money at Christmas and buy all these gifts for your kids, and they'll play with the boxes? Like, look, next year we go into Costco and get you a bunch of boxes, and we go wrap the boxes, and you can play with the boxes. I wouldn't do that. Maybe I would. Anyway, they need you. And so show up any way and everywhere you can. I know it can be difficult, especially if you're doing the shared custody thing, if you've been through a divorce or you live in another state. Show up. Show up to their games. Show up to their events. Show up to just show up. Sit on the couch. Be there, because they need to know that you're there. And that proximity means a whole lot to them. And so I think it's so important for us to show up in many different ways. I guess another way to say it is to not to check out, like, because you can be there and not be there. And I've talked to kids before who say their dad is in the home, but he's not there. And even if he is there, he's not there. And I know we work hard. I know we, give a lot to make money for our families and do a lot of things. But at the end of the day, I think some of our kids would rather be poor and have you there than have a whole bunch of stuff and not have you there. So think about that. Whether your mom, your dad, your parent, it's a choice. It comes down to a choice to show up the best you can. Show up with your imperfect self. And I keep saying that because I know the struggle of trying to be a perfect parent, trying to do everything you can and seem like you failed. And here's the thing. If you failed, when you fail, don't give up. Just get up. Show up every day so the kids will know you are here, period. I think that's it. That's it. That's all three. Eat, read, and show up. Those are three things I think would be very important as a parent, as you choose to parent by choice and not by chance. If you got any thoughts or comments, I would love to hear them and share them with me, and I'll share them with the world. So thanks for joining us for another episode of The Mr. Brown Show. Check us out every week, because we're going to post something every week for you, because we want to help you make better choices, live a better life. And sometimes the show will not be about parenting. Sometimes the show will be about whatever I want to talk about or whatever you want to talk about. So if you got an idea for an episode of The Mr. Brown Show, let me know. I would love to hear your thoughts, and maybe we'll do an episode, and maybe you can be on the show with me. I'll call you on the phone. Yeah, by the way, there's another way that you can actually leave your comments, not just in written form. You can also call our 24-hour feedback phone. I forgot to mention that. That number is 530-535-8121. That's a number you can just call. It's a voicemail. It's a Google Voice number. You can call and leave a voicemail, and maybe I'll use it on the show. Maybe I'll just be encouraged by you, or maybe you can give me a question. Because we do have another podcast called Ask Mr. Brown, where I just give you my perspective on your questions. For all that information, visit HelloMrBrown.com. Till next time, remember, when you make better choices, you will live a better life. So choose well. Oh, yeah. Peace.